Not sure about you, but have you ever been out with someone who isn't exactly cheap, but is hyper-deliberate with money? The kind of person who studies a menu like it's a legal contract and then asks the server if tap water is free and whether they can skip the $5 add-on because they are not that hungry anyway. Or they pull out their phone calculator at brunch to divide a $27 bill down to the exact cent, adjusting for who had extra avocado and who only drank half a coffee. And you're just sitting there thinking, how do they earn more in a year than I've ever seen in my life? It got me thinking about my own reactions to money. So today we're going to break down the psychology of what's actually happening here. And spoiler, it has surprisingly little to do with the money itself. Financial psychologist Brad Klontz talks about something called money scripts. These are unconscious beliefs about money that get programmed into us when we're young, long before we understand interest rates or retirement accounts. People who are extremely careful with spending often operate from what he calls a money vigilance script. It's the belief that financial disaster is always lurking just out of sight. It's like their brain has a smoke alarm for spending. Even small, harmless expenses can trigger it. Research suggests this script usually forms in one of two ways. Either they grew up in a home where money stress was loud and constant, or they experienced some kind of financial shock themselves, bankruptcy, sudden job loss, watching a family business collapse. The brain responds by writing one rule in permanent ink: never let that happen again. So it installs an internal surveillance system. Every dollar out feels like a potential threat. But here's where it gets complicated. Not all extreme savers grew up without money. Some of the most financially anxious people come from comfortable backgrounds. The twist? Their parents were deeply frugal. The anxiety gets passed down even if the hardship doesn't. It's like inheriting the alarm system without ever experiencing the break-in. Your nervous system doesn't care about logic. It doesn't check your bank balance before reacting. It just knows that spending feels unsafe. So you reuse paper towels. You drive across town to save a few cents per liter while burning more fuel getting there. On paper, the numbers don't add up. Psychologically, they make perfect sense. There's another version of the extreme saver, though, and their motivation is a little different. Some people use frugality as a form of control. In a world that feels chaotic, unstable, and unpredictable, controlling money becomes a lifeline. Behavioral finance researcher Sarah Newcomb has written about how financial behaviors often spike when people feel powerless in other areas of their lives. If you can't control your job security, your partner's mood, or whether your landlord raises the rent, you can absolutely control whether you buy store brand or premium olive oil. That 80 cents isn't the point. The point is reclaiming a sense of agency. And this is why Yowell meet people who are bizarrely selective about where they save. They'll refuse to pay for checked luggage but casually spend thousands on a niche hobby. They'll haggle over delivery fees but upgrade their tech the moment a new model drops. It looks inconsistent. But psychologically, it's not. They restrict spending in areas that soothe their need for control and spend freely where it feeds identity, status, or comfort. Now here's where it gets interesting. Studies consistently show there's a sweet spot with money. People who are mindful and intentional without being extreme report higher levels of well-being than people on either end of the spectrum. Moderate saving tends to increase feelings of security and life satisfaction, but most of us don't hover in the middle. We overshoot. We either numb ourselves with spending or deprive ourselves in the name of safety. Some people are eating instant noodles by candlelight to cut the electricity bill while their investment portfolio quietly thrives in the background. The line between financially responsible and psychologically rigid is thinner than we'd like to admit. And here's the twist that really scrambles the brain. Extreme saving and extreme spending often come from the same root: anxiety. The spender tries to purchase relief, validation, or joy. The saver tries to stockpile protection against imagined catastrophes, different coping mechanisms, same emotional fuel. Then there's the social cost. When you're the person who declines every outing because it's not in the budget, or who visibly tenses up when the group suggests splitting the bill evenly, people notice. Eventually, they stop inviting you. Isolation creeps in. Loneliness increases anxiety. Anxiety tightens your grip on money. And just like that, you're in a feedback loop, your brain designed to keep you safe. Money is also one of the most common sources of conflict in relationships. When one partner is intensely budget-focused and the other is more relaxed, it can feel like they are speaking entirely different languages. To the vigilant saver, their partner's spending feels reckless and dangerous. To the partner, the constant restraint feels controlling and suffocating. Neither is irrational. They are just running different money scripts on autopilot. There's also a strange paradox here. Some people who are extremely careful with money have more than enough to be generous. They want to help friends. They want to give. But the act of parting with money triggers so much anxiety that they freeze. Then they feel guilt for not helping, which creates even more emotional tension around money. Mental health professionals point out that compulsive saving can be just as disruptive as compulsive spending when it starts interfering with daily life. If your financial habits damage your relationships, limit your experiences, or prevent you from feeling joy, that's when it may be worth examining more closely or even seeking professional support. Here's the irony that really stands out. People who obsessively save are trying to feel secure. That's the whole goal. But extreme restraint often produces the opposite effect. You live in a constant state of imagined scarcity. Your bank account might signal abundance, but your nervous system is still bracing for impact. So you end up protecting yourself from a future disaster at the cost of your present life. When you zoom out, this behavior is rarely about the numbers. It's about control. It's about inherited beliefs. It's about trauma, unpredictability, and the deep human need to feel safe in a world that doesn't always cooperate. And the tricky part? Society praises frugality. Careful spenders get labeled as disciplined, responsible, admirable. So they rarely receive feedback that their behavior might be rooted in anxiety rather than wisdom. If this made you slightly uncomfortable about your own relationship with money, good. That discomfort usually means something just clicked into place. Subscribe if you want more psychological deep dives like this. And if you're feeling ironically generous, you can hit that join button to support the channel. More videos. Same energy, different intriguing corners of the human mind. See you there.